Welcome to Inside ArtScroll, where the books that we read and the people that write them come to life. It's an honor and a pleasure to welcome Rabbi David Sutton to ArtScroll Studios.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Rabbi Sutton, Mazel Tov.
Thank you.
You have finished the Beis HaLevi series with the third and final volume. Tell us, Rabbi Sutton, how does it feel?
How does it feel? I'm not just going to tell you. I'm going to demonstrate how it feels.
Really?
You ready?
I'm ready.
So, here we go.
This is an ArtScroll first, I think.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehayanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazeman hazeh.
Amen. So that was on the jacket or the book?
That was, since there is a discussion whether putting out a new sefer is shehayanu worthy or not, so just to cover all bases, making it on the suit, but the main intention is on the Beis HaLevi.
Fantastic. And the third sefer in the final series is the Beis HaLevi on Anavah, on humility. I'm assuming it was a humbling experience?
Sure.
Rabbi Sutton, you know, the word humility, I think from the Torah's perspective, and the word humility in the general population may have very different meanings. I think a good way to jump into the series and talk a little bit about Anavah, of humility, is how would you define practically what it means to be humble, to have Anavah, from the Torah's perspective, obviously?
So the easiest way about it is, I am very smart, very kind, I have a lot of insight, but all of those gifts are gifts of God. It's almost like I'm putting on this suit now, and I'm all proud of the suit, but I have news for you. I didn't buy the suit, and I have to give it back afterwards. I made a shechiyanu on it, but it's a matan al manas lahachzir.
Wow, fascinating.
So, what do you feel like? It's not yours, it's borrowed. Or it was given to you for a mission. I'm wearing this microphone now. It's not my microphone, it's here to do something with. And like Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said, I have the mind of 1,000 people, but with that comes the responsibility of 1,000 people. So humility means not denying your talents, but realizing they're not your talents. They're talents that were given to you for your mission. And everyone has their qualities. It's like the line that the Mesilas Yesharim says, when a bird flies, it's not all proud. Lakach notzarta, that's what you were born for. That's what you're here for.
So how do we balance that with feelings of self-accomplishment? I mean, if everything that we have and everything that we do is all Hashem, so on some level, does that diminish the feelings of pride that we have when we finish a 3-volume series of the Beis HaLevi's writings?
So the answer is, Ki im bezos yishalal hamasalo, haskell v'yadei osi, which means, Yirmiyah starts off by saying that a person should not be proud of his wealth or his wisdom or his strength. What is he proud of? The fact that he knows me, which means ultimately, I could switch Sephardi, Ashkenaz, well, whichever you'd like.
Whatever you're most comfortable.
Hakol bidei shamayim, chutz mirat shamayim. Everything is in the hands of God, but fear of God, which means the fact that this sefer came out, I can't take any pride about it, because there's so many things that could have gone wrong and do go wrong and ends up happening. The only pride I could take is that I made a choice. That's what's in my hands. That I could be proud of my accomplishments. I got up this morning and I chose to get out of bed and not to stay in bed. That's something that I'm proud of. I'm proud of my choices. My accomplishments, that's not in my hands. And therefore, I can't even judge what it took me to get here this morning, what it took you to get here this morning, what it took me to get out of bed, what it took you to get out of bed. Choices, that's only Hashem knows how to judge choices. But accomplishments, I can't be proud of accomplishments. Ultimately, it happened. I mean, the amount of siyata d'shmaya necessary for a book to come out is mind-boggling. The amount of things that can go wrong and will go wrong are mind-boggling. And if Hashem is not watching over it, it's not going to happen.
That's a beautiful way of thinking about it. I noticed when I was looking through the book that, like, on the bottom, obviously, there are tons and tons of insights. And I was thinking to myself, Rabbi Sutton, you're a Mayan HaNoveh, a wellspring that overflows. There's probably thousands of mikorot, thousands of sources that are inside of here. But on some level, those made it in. And I'm sure some of the things didn't make it to the cutting floor. And that's also siyata d'shmaya. That's also HaKadosh Baruch Hu was like, I know what I want in the finished product. So I'm going to put in Rabbi David Sutton's head and heart, and maybe the editor's head and heart, that these things should make it into the book for perpetuity, and these things maybe should make it into a different book. So yeah, you put in the effort, like you said, and I'm sure you chose many times to work hard on this sefer, because it's really a work of art, and there's so much scholarship that's inside of it. But at the same time, you think HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I think it was a beautiful way to start. I don't think we've ever had this on Inside ArtScroll with me or Rabbi Hissiger, that somebody changed jackets and said Shechianu. You actually give me a little bit of perspective here, because I know I put out a book. I felt great, but I didn't say Shechianu. Maybe on my next book, Bezrat Hashem, hopefully it'll come out soon. Maybe I'll say Shechianu. I don't know. Maybe I'll buy a suit. It's really interesting to know that the flip side, and I saw this in the Sefer many, many times, that the flip side of Anavah is Gava, or arrogance. And that is so despised and so despicable. More perhaps than any other midara, than any other evil character trait. Why is that? Why is arrogance so repulsive to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the Borei Olam?
And that's one of the things, one of the strongest takeaways when I was working on the book is like, I never realized, like, wow, this is like, you didn't realize this poisonous drug. You thought it was okay. You didn't realize it was, there's fentanyl mixed into the drugs. You thought it was just an Ambien. You didn't know there was fentanyl here. And that's literally what it is. Gava is this poison. It's a fentanyl that's going to, bring the greatest down. Yeravam ben Nevat, Atavi Ishai, Nitayel v'Gan Eden. You and David will walk, and he's mi barosh, and he loses everything. It's a deadly, deadly poison. And probably the reason why it's so bad is because, like the Ramban says in Higeret Ramban, that when you're being arrogant, talking about jackets, you're taking God's jacket. Hashem malach geut lavesh. You're really taking responsibility for what you didn't do. And that's, if you look at it, when we see it, the mashal is, imagine you have a child whose father's trying to teach him how to play baseball. And he lobs him an easy pitch. Actually, we'll say his uncle is playing game. The father's holding the bat with the kid, his hands on his hands. It comes in, he swings the bat with the kid, and he hits it out of the park. And it's going, wow! You didn't do anything. Your uncle sent you an easy pitch. Your father was holding hand and swung the bat, and you're taking credit now for it? That is a little despicable. That's a turnoff. I did it, and you're taking credit. And like the Beis HaLevi brings down, it's like avodah zarah. It's like idol worship. That's a pretty serious affront. That's amazing. So practically, Rabbi Sutton, how do we work on the midah of anava, of having more humility in our life, of being less arrogant? Of course, the sefer is always a good way, but what can we do to kind of humble ourselves a little bit and make sure that we're not bitten by the poison drug? Right. So Rav Olba brings a very interesting practical advice. I heard it from him. Could be it's in his Sfarim as well. I was zocheh to learn many years by Rav Olba. And he said everything in the Balei Musar is they take a maseh katan, take something small, and infuse whatever you want to do in that small act. It might sound like nothing, but again, a mashal that he used. When you take a drug, my father's a dermatologist, and a lot of the rashes go away with a cream that has cortisone in it, which is an anti-inflammatory. The amount of active ingredients, it's 0.01%. And yet it works. And I've always said the same thing. When we're working on ourselves, we're not using a sledgehammer. It's something small and consistent and steady. And his advice for working on humility is the most humbling moment should be when you're praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's when you realize, I can't do anything. All day you're doing. You're supposed to stand there with your feet together. One opinion is to be like angels. The other one to say is, I can't go anywhere. I'm locked. I can't do anything. I need you for my wisdom. I need you for my health. I need you for my parnasah. I need you for kibbutz gali. I need you for everything. And I can't do anything. That's humbling. And we start that off with bowing. And he says, at that point when you bow, at the beginning of your Amidah, your Shemona Esrei, you're supposed to be thinking, I am standing in front of the all-powerful. I can't do anything, and I'm bowing to him. I'm showing that I can't do anything without him. That's a practical way. Prayer, he said, is the way to work on Anavah. Every time you're praying, you're not just reading, you're realizing, I need you. I can't do it without you. Please help me. I am helpless. And that's the reason why we get all our challenges in life. I don't know what business you're in or what the atmosphere or the people that you live with, but I live in the Syrian community, and the tariffs that were being threatened were crushing people's businesses, crushing them. And someone that could have a very successful business suddenly realized, I have 100 workers, I have goods to produce, I can't do anything. I have nothing to do at work. I'm going to work, there's nothing to do. I can't buy, I can't sell. I can't do anything. And when you get to that moment, you say, Hashem, I need you. I can't do it. I thought I'm in charge. I'm not in charge. Whether it's COVID, whether it's tariffs, whether it's low medical challenge, a family challenge, every challenge comes for one reason only. For us to learn that lesson that I'm not in charge. And once we learn the lesson, and we say, Hashem, I'm not in charge, that's one of the reasons problems go away.
That's remarkable and such a good perspective about the tariffs. I heard somebody who said he's probably going to have to just shut his entire business down. He doesn't even have a model to do business. And imagine going from his fellow was making a boatload of money, literally, and his hands tied behind his back. Imagine if you have real Anavah or Bitachon, which is one of the other books that he wrote from the Beis HaLevi. That really gives a person something to hold on to at least. As you're saying this, it just like strikes me about the irony. Here you have, the leader of the American people, who I don't know if he's such an expert in Anavah, but on some level, the byproduct of what he's doing is so humbling. It's absolutely remarkable, and it's fascinating. Do you feel that if a person, works on Anavah, is it going to make that person less popular amongst other people, or maybe people will appreciate his humility?
Shlomo Melech says, Ula anavim yitein chen. God gives charm to the humble. And chen is a gift of God. It's a gift of God. Certain people just have the charm and certain people don't. Humility is a chen spray. It's something that's just naturally charming. And gava is a turnoff. We know that. People get up there and you smell the arrogance. No, people don't. It's ironic, but it's counterproductive. Without using examples of people, but well-known people, the arrogance is like, yeah, I might need the guy. He might be powerful, but it's a turnoff.
That's remarkable. Maybe it's a good idea to segue into a little of the two other books that in the series of the Beis HaLevi just for a moment. There's the Beis HaLevi on Bitachon, and there's also the Beis HaLevi on Ahavas Yisrael. Correct me, right? That's the other one. What's the correlation? Is there a theme, a thread between these three topics? On one hand, Anavah, the other, caring about other people, and then finally, Bitachon and trust. You've already alluded to.
Right.
How would you put those three together?
So it's interesting. It is here somewhere in the book, in the introduction, on the final third one. What is the reason, the common thread among these three essays? So
I didn't get the introduction. They only sent me the actual book.
Okay, so I don't know how this XX and XXI and XXII at the beginning of the introduction are discussing this topic of why these three. But in short, the common thread is, and I think the bedrock is humility, is if a person's humble, they can rely on Hashem, or they need to rely on Hashem. If someone relies on Hashem, they're humble. If someone's humble, they love their fellow man. If someone's arrogant, it's all about themselves. So these three traits are really interconnected and interrelated, and they feed off of each other. And again, to hypothesize why the Beis HaLevi decided to write these three mamarim. He wrote Teshuvot, he wrote a commentary on the Torah, he wrote Dirashot. He wrote for print. And I heard this from one of his great-grandchildren that had the Ktav Yad in his possession. He wrote it for print. He has, backing to that point. For some reason, it wasn't printed. It wasn't like it was a private notebook. He wanted to print it. It didn't get printed. His son didn't print it. His grandchildren didn't print it. His great-grandchildren in 1985 decided to put out these three final, it was like 94 years after he passed, something like that it comes out, which is very odd. It's not like it's 1,000 years ago. They were there, he wrote them for print, and for some reason they waited to be released. And there's something about something that's released now. It's new. Even though if it would have been, oh yeah, it's been around for 100 years. No, it just came out. It's almost like, Beis HaLevi B'Tachan. It's a new popular bestseller. What happened? You don't have that, Rabbi Akiva Eiger just came with a new sefer. It doesn't happen.
Right.
So Hashem, for some reason, wanted to save it. It should be released now. And as Rabbi Yaakov Hill told me, it's released now because obviously we need it. And especially when it comes to humility. Mashiach comes, the famous song, but it's a midrash. Anavah, right? Hashem's going to say, humble ones. That's what we're waiting for. We're waiting for us to be humbled. The whole reason we are reliving Galut Mitzrayim, because every Galut is a continuation of that. The purpose of Galut Mitzrayim was to humble us. And the rule always is that Hashem puts you in a challenge to bring out what we need from you. And this is a generation of Gava. This is a generation of, I just want to show you what I have.
Social media,
Social
that's
media,
all
right.
it is.
It's all about Gava.
And it's fake too.
Right, Gava is fake.
Right.
Gava, one of the things we talk about here is the difference between Gava and Romamut. Romamut is an inherent greatness. It's not because I'm greater than you. I am what I am. I know my self-value and self-worth, and I walk around with it. And that's not a contradiction. That's not Anavah and Romamut is the same. A person can have Romus. It's not a stira, it's not a contradiction. Ga'ava is an artificial substitute for Romamut. When you don't have Romamut, you don't have internal greatness. So therefore you need all these external demarcations. The term status symbol. This symbolizes my status. What do you mean? This watch decides who you are? The car decides who you are? The answer is I need an external demarcation of what my status is. And that's the generation we live in now more than any other generation. And why is that? Because if Hashem wants you to become humble, He puts you in that challenging spot. He's going to send you, it's like if you're trying to teach somebody how to play tennis. I'm not going to send you the balls that are, I want to train your backhand. I want you to work on something you need. So Hashem sends us. If we have to become the generation of humility, He's going to give us the opportunity by putting us in the generation that is so much harder. I once saw, I think Rabbi Yonatan Eibschitz says, who is the greatest Noseh Ba'ol of history? Who is the Noseh Ba'ol? In the Torah, biblical Noseh Ba'ol.
Was it Moshe Rabbeinu?
Moshe Rabbeinu. Biblical Noseh Ba'ol. Who is the one that should be least Noseh Ba'ol? You're in the palace. You're being raised at Paro. It doesn't mean anything to you. So Hashem set him up that the man that's supposed to be the greatest Noseh Ba'ol is in the most difficult situation not to be. And when he overcomes that, he becomes the Noseh Ba'ol. So our generation that is so inundated with opportunities for Ga'ava, they're going to become the Anavim.
And therefore it'll be that, when you have a diamond, it's rare, and the rarity creates the value. And to have Anavah these days is rare, but it's so precious and it's so valuable. It's interesting that you're saying this because just a little while back, I also interviewed the fellow who translated the Ein Yaakov, a monumental work. And he was saying that the Ein Yaakov was written at a time period where there was going to be a lot of persecution, dispersion, and people didn't have the ability to focus and to learn at the level of scholarship that they did in other generations. So Hashem prepared that the Ein Yaakov would be put out. So all the Gemaras of the Agaritas, which are somewhat, on some level, a little bit easier to learn, they came out literally as that time period was unfolding. And it toggles exactly what you're saying here, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu hid the Beis HaLevi on Bitachon, on Anavah, Israel, for years, for a century, because he was trickling it out. He's releasing it when we need it the most. It's very precious.
It's almost like that Chavetz Chaim video that came out.
Right, the picture of the Chavetz Chaim.
That video in Vienna.
Right, correct.
It's sitting in the archives of whoever the news reporter was, and suddenly we find out as if like Chavetz Chaim's coming to life now. There's a Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah. I think Rabbeinu HaKadosh had an ailment, and he needed apple cider. Was 70 years old, and somehow there was a guy in the town that had apple cider. Was 70 years old, and he says, Baruch Shnatan Olamo LaShomrim. Blessed is the one that gave his world to guardians, that things are guarded and released when you need to be released.
Remarkable. And you know what else I think is really beautiful at the same time, just talking about this? Like, I don't think, there's ever been a period in history where people could understand the difficult parts of the really difficult parts of the Beis HaLevi, his tshuvot, and, just the Brisker Torah. He was the progenitor of the whole Brisker dynasty. And people have such a vast appreciation for that. Nowadays, your typical yeshiva bachar is learning the Brisker Svarim already when they're 13 or 14 years old, the Reb Chaim and the Brisker Rav, and the Beis HaLevi al Torah. And I think maybe alongside that appreciation, Hashem was like, Mein derech eretz, ein Torah. You also got to understand that the Beis HaLevi wrote 3 essays about midas, about character, and now it's such a great time. I want to give you a big compliment.
Before that, I'm going to hold you. You talked about the how the world, the yeshiva world, is starving for the Beis HaLevi. So just recently, on this 3rd volume, 3 Gedolei Yisrael, Rabbi David Cohen of Chevron Yeshiva, Rabbi Beryl Povarsky from Panovich, and Rabbi Moshe Hirsch from Chevron, wrote a haskama, and they used the words over here describing the Beit HaLevi. Asher kol Yisrael tzmeim l'chol tipa hayotzei mekul maso. The entire people are thirsty for every drop that comes out of his quill.
Amazing.
That's a very powerful line.
They are.
Yeah, they are. They are. That's the, that's, it's really, I don't want to use this term, it's marketing. It means if David Sutton would have come out a book on Anavah and Bitachon Avisrael, no one would have bought it. So I got a brand, like Nike is a brand. It's branding. We Syrians, when you buy a product, they don't own the company. I have a friend, his name is a congregant friend, Ronnie Ajmi. So he goes around talking about cell phones all over the country.
I heard of him, yeah.
And when they advertise and they say he owns Nike, Reebok, Adidas, he doesn't own them. He has a license and he produces them. Mm-hmm. He doesn't own them. So it's the same thing over here. You have to know how to market it. So Beis HaLevi sells. So it's a marketing technique. Beis HaLevi sells.
I've also noticed that there's 2 different distinct covers that they have.
That's also a marketing technique. So this cover is a nice, beautiful cover that I thought was great. The but is, for some reason, I don't know the idiosyncrasies, but some reason people are uncomfortable. It's not a sefer.
It's a book.
If I want to learn in yeshiva, I want to take this to yeshiva, I'm not learning Musar Seder with a picture on the cover. I want it to look like a sefer. So therefore, ArtScroll was kind enough to be sensitive to the different feelings of different people and said, you know what? If you like to have a book, we have a book for you. If you want to have more of a sefer look, we have a sefer for you.
And the slipcase is going to have...
Yes, there is going to, Bezrat Hashem, be a 3-volume slipcase in the deluxe edition with all 3 inside of them.
Beautiful.
This is really the push for this. The project started, the Beis HaLevi started with a dear friend of mine, Mr. Sam Sasson, who's the original push behind the project. Miraculously, Mr. Muchi Newman heard about it after it was in the process, literally at the tail end, and he got his way in. And he continued pushing the Avos Yisrael and the Anavah, and he was the one that said, it has to be a sefer. It has to be a sefer, and that was his idea, to say, you know what, there's a Mesil Shisharim, and there's a Chovos Lavavos, and there's a Shari Tshuva that look like this that ArtScroll has. I think the Beis HaLevi deserves the same, respect. It's a sefer. The Beis HaLevi is a sefer.
That's beautiful. It's amazing. The compliment I was going to give you was that I worked in Camp Aguda as part of the staff in the Catskills for a bunch of years. And one of our older divisions, one of the oldest bunks in camp, after a full day of camp, there's a lot going on and you're tired, and then maybe even have a night activity, or you have some chill time, or the kids are going to hit the pool or the volleyball. And when Mariv is over, most of the kids just dash out to go to the canteen, or they want to get on the line for the shower. I don't know if you could identify with this, but there was one bunk, and great counselor, and every single day I watched in awe as they would sit down while everyone else in the entire camp ran out, and they would go through the Beis HaLevi on Bitachon. They didn't just go through it. I feel on some level it went through them. And by the end of the summer, they made us see them.
How many boys?
Probably about 25 or 30 boys.
Beautiful.
And they made us see them. And it was such a beautiful moment. It was a moment which they'll probably cherish, And it helped them work on Bitachon, which itself, and I don't know if they would have learned it outside of that. If I'm not mistaken, the Beis HaLevi on Bitachon is like perhaps one of the best selling Svarim that ArtScroll has, correct?
I think so, yeah, I think so. But it's interesting, you said see them. It's just interesting. Last week, Thursday night, I was invited to Englewood, New Jersey. There's a nice young Sephardic rabbi, Rabbi Morty Kasus. Mm-hmm. And he says, I've been doing Beis HaLevi for a year with my group every Thursday night. and I'd like you to come and read the last page and make a siyum on the Beis HaLevi. And at the siyum, they said, you know what? We want this Beis HaLevi to get out as much as it can. And they committed themselves, the Englewood Torah Center, under this Rabbi Kasus, to dedicate the Beis HaLevi and Bitachon Travel Edition. So it's a soft cover, smaller, pocket size, because there are so many people that tell me, you know what? I'm carrying I want to just, give me something to slip in. The small one's too small. I just want the Daf Yomi travel series. I want to have my next to my Bavli Yushalmi travel series. I want my Beis HaLevi as well. So there's really a thirst, like I said, to be able to, on my trip, I just want to be able to have the Beis HaLevi.
You could take your bitachon with you on the road.
Yeah.
And you think about it, if you arrive at the airport and there's delays and everything, you need that, because people who have bitachon don't get flustered.
Right.
And those people who struggle with bitachon and think that they control their schedule, they get very flustered. So that's a beautiful, and it's also such a nice sentiment that, like, you make a siyum, you invite the rabbi down to finish it up. And what are the words that we say when we finish any Masechta? Hadran alach. What does that mean? I'll come back to you. Imagine if they did the same, they basically had bitachon a second time, once they were working on it.
So I once heard a beautiful pshat on Hadran alach. Hod v'hadar. Hadar means shining. Hadran alach means your shining is on me. The learning that I did now makes me shine. Karan ar panav, Moshe Rabbeinu's face shines. So when you learn something, Hadran alach means we have that, the Hadran alach. We have that shining. That means when you learn the Beis HaLevi, you learn any sefer, you come out a better person. It changes you.
It's fantastic. And Moshe Rabbeinu, the Anav Mikal Adam,
right,
the most humble of all people, what does he have? Karan ar panav.
And if we want to go even further, the famous Balaturim that says, where did he get that extra ink from? When he wrote Vayikra, the small aleph, it was supposed to be a big aleph, he made it smaller. So the extra ink, so his humility that he made the aleph smaller, that's what actually created the ink on his face for his face to shine.
That
so it's a direct connection.
Remarkable. Rabbi Sutton, I'm sure you've had the opportunity, you said Rav Volba and others that you've met in your life. You just wrote a whole commentary on Anavah. When I say the word humble, which people in your Baruch Hashem beautiful, illustrious life journey thus far come into your mind? Who are people that personify that?
One, that strikes me very strongly, had a big impression, is Cham Yehuda Ades. You should ever watch the Rosh Yeshiva Kol Yaakov. I remember coming to his house more than one time, and he's pouring me a cup of tea. And it's a Gadol B'Yisrael. And he had, I heard the story from him, I don't remember if I brought it in the book or not, but he once told me that he was learning, he was 22 or 23, he was learning with Cham Ezra Atiyah, who was the Rosh Yeshiva Parat Yosef, Cham Baruch Ben Chaim, that they just put out a book on, was a student of his. We literally
just did this interview last week.
Cham Vadia Yosef was a student of his. Cham Ben Sion Abashul was a student of his. Cham Sion Levi from Panama.
That miracle class.
The wonder class.
The wonder class, yeah.
So Cham Ezra Atiyah was learning, he's 70, 80, learning B'chavruta Ben Azmanu with Cham Yehuda Ades. Cham Yehuda's father, Rabbi Yaakov Ades, was a Rosh Yeshiva there as well. And at the end of their learning, he says, I have to end a little early. He says, I have to take care of something. He says, what do you think? I have to take care of something. He was curious. He's walking. He's walking. He walked from his house 20 minutes or half an hour slowly till he gets to Machane Yehuda. And he took out of his pocket the top of a stovetop, old stovetop, and he had to get soldered because it was broken. And he said to Cham Ezra Atiyah, it took you 20 minutes to walk. You could have given it to me. I would have gone back and forth. Why did the Rosh Yeshiva have to do this? He says, and I should be mishtamesh with a Talmid Chacham. You're the Rosh Yeshiva. He's 23-year-old Avrech. No, I can't be mishtamesh with a Talmid Chacham.
That's amazing. And the greatness came from their humility. It's clear. It's clear.
There's endless Gadolin stories. That is the hallmark. That every Gadol, you can go on, there's not a Gadol that you meet that you don't hear. I visited Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky once when I was a kid, Sudash Lishit. I was with friends. They said, let's go to Rabbi Yaakov. I lived in Muncie. I knock on the door. He answers the door. He says, come sit down, have Sudash Lishit with us. I sat with me and my friend in high school, Rabbi Yaakov and his Rebbetzin. Go to some political figure and try that.
The guard at the door won't let you in.
Exactly.
This has been remarkable. The power of Anavah. You want to say
one last.
Go ahead, last word.
Rabbi Nassim Sherman, my father-in-law, is probably from the humblest people that I know.
I agree, and who am I to agree with?
I spend time with him. He's from the most humble people I know, and I think that's part of ArtScroll's success, is that humility that transcended through his being the partner with Rabbi Meir Zlotowitz, that driving force of Rabbi Zlotowitz and my father-in-law together, how they really humbly took on that mission of spreading Torah to Klal Yisrael.
And the success was legendary. It's supernatural.
Yes.
Rabbi Sutton, it's been a schus and a pleasure to talk to you. It's been humbling too. And I highly recommend that if you're watching this video, you go out and you purchase the Sefer, you purchase the book, you purchase the travel edition, you learn it. It'll give you a lot of pause, and we all strive for greatness. You'll come out of this Sefer in a much greater place than you were before. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.